Hello Multiverse, welcome to Omniverse Gamers. My name is Damien Basayo. Today's video is going to dissect another dynamic encounter. We're gonna call this one Underdark Kou-Toa Slaver Hot Springs. It's a big title. I'll probably shrink that down when I actually put that on YouTube. But basically, this is an example of a 0.5 encounter, which I just made a video on. It's basically a classic twist on the you all meet in a tavern. We just did a session 0 for a new campaign called Deep World Absconders, where they're all kind of running from slavery. They all start separately. One of them is a half-elf that's a runaway slave. One of them is a grung that's looking for slavers that destroyed his family, that kind of kidnapped his family. One is a psychologically subjugated gnome barbarian, who, if you've ever seen the Jet Li movie Unleashed, with Anthony Hopkins and stuff, where he kind of had him on a leash, and he had to, like, when he told him what to do, he had to do it. You know, this gnome barbarian is kind of like that, and he has this idol thing, and he's owned by some of the slavers that are in this place. And then there's another other character is an innocent mole man who just kind of smells food, because he's burrowing through the land, and he takes a wrong turn at Albuquerque. You know, old people know about Bugs Bunny and know what that means. He just kind of pops into this place where it seems like a good place when he first comes, and there's lots of food, but then there's also, this is like, you know, the Star Wars cantina. This is the Underdark. This is a tavern in the Underdark. It's not a good place for he should not be here. He should not have come here, basically, and he kind of finds that out. Now, this encounter, like I said, it's right after session 0. So it wasn't meant to be anything great. I had nothing pre-planned. I just kind of had a generic encounter that I kind of made up as we did session 0. I kind of add my plans as I went, and I had these tiles. I had the dungeon tiles. There's one of my sets of dungeon tiles anyway. So I just put a bunch of them together that were water, and made this like little tavern that they were going to meet at, little Underdark hot springs. So this is an example of a complete railroad that they knew when this started that they were not going to win. It sounds like, well, why would they want to fight? You know, because it's a kind of a practice session. So, like, I gave them enough agency, and they had a pretty good fight. They put up a fight. They made me put in I had set this up in waves so that I could see how many waves they would survive. Basically, it was kind of like it's almost like playing Call of Duty. Like, you're in the wave thing. You're defending the waves, whatever. But anyway, and they knew that. And we already agreed that session 1 they were going to start the game enslaved by these dark elves. So these Kuo-Toa, these kind of fish dudes. If you ever seen Kou-Toa, I think I'm saying that right. I'm not really sure. I never really knew how to say that one. I used to say Kou-Toa, but I guess it's Kuo-Toa. They are basically slavers. So kind of gave them little pieces or reasons why they were in this place, in this Underdark hot springs. And we'll go show you what they're seeing and show you how I set this up, and then see how this battle turned out. So yeah, as you can see, this is just a bunch of tiles. This is the wilderness set, and it's the dungeon set, and I just took some water pieces, anything that had water in it, and I just kind of put them together and made a little waterfall there. And I just put some random people in there, and you know, this is a Underdark hot springs, and it's run by this furball who's right there in the center, but next to that water fountain, and he's just kind of giving people food. The water fountain's kind of like it's kind of like a replicator from Star Trek. He can just kind of conjure any food he wants. So they're all kind of here. The first to arrive here she's a half elf, half dark elf wizard. She's escaped slavery, basically, from these dark elves. She's escaped them from way deep below, and she's making her way slowly away. She finds her way through this waterfall right here, and she's up here in the upper side here. I'll point to her, and her bat's like over here. That's a little tinfoil bat we made. That's her familiar. She's just kind of really scared. She came through the waterfall, smelled food. She's really starving. She's just kind of hiding out in the corner. She hasn't dared to go anywhere and ask anybody for any food or anything. She's just kind of been sitting there kind of quietly. Our next person to come is a grung. He's a grung whose family has been basically taken. His whole tribe has been taken by these Kuo-Toa slavers, and he's trying to track them down, basically. So that's why he's here. And as the game progresses, I'll actually explain that there's some slavers over here. I'm literally making this up as I go. So here's a Kou-Toa, here's some grung that are already enslaved, and you know they're not his kin, but he kind of gets the idea that those are the ones. And then our next player enters, and he's this little gnome here. This Thrykeen is bringing this gnome in, really beaten down gnome, and the Thrykeen has this wooden totem of a bear, basically. And what this totem is, it represents the chain from the movie Unleashed. Jet Li had to wear a chain on his neck, and that he was like a dog, basically, and he was, you know, controlled by that. Well, this gnome has the same type of setup, but it's this bear totem that comes from his tribe that he's kind of following it blindly. You know, he has no choice. He can't fight whoever's holding the totem. He pretty much has to do what they say. That's just part of his culture, part of his upbringing, part of this conditioning that he has. So they show up. You know, they start to, you know, I try to describe where everybody is, and they move along, and I give them all a chance to describe themselves, basically. You know, I give them one that is our first sessions. We're trying to describe ourselves to each other, basically. And then I introduce the fourth character, who just kind of pops up out of the ground. He has this little Ophidian that can dig through stone, and he can slowly dig behind him. And he just pops up, in front of the striking, kind of has a little interchange with him, which was pretty funny. He like said because he has tremor sense, he can't see him, but he senses this big giant bug, and he's like, "Oh, you look tasty," and then the fur bulk's like, "You can't eat the guests. You gotta like, you can order some food, but you can't eat each other here. You know what I mean? That's not the kind of place I run. So whatever." And then some things ensue. Eventually they separate, and now I'm basically going quietly and I'm setting up my encounter. Now what I do is I walk over. The slaver walks over towards the other slaver, and then my grung guy's kind of watching. A couple things happen. There was like one guy was eating a mango, and he kind of threw the mango half eaten, and then the wizard chick who was afraid, she didn't dare to grab it. But as everybody else was watching everything else, watching the Thrykeen and the Mole Man in exchange, she quickly grabbed the mango and started eating it. And then the grung noticed that she was hungry. So they are piecing and feeling each other out, At a certain point, our grung monk jumps from one rock to the other because he wants to get closer. And he's trying to hear what these slavers are saying. And then he gets the last part of their conversation when they go to the gnome. The guy, the Thrykeen, takes with the totem, says to the gnome, he says, "Kill Berwick." And Berwick is the furball who's in charge of this place. The gnome tries to resist it, but he can't. He has to do what he does. So he starts to go attacking this guy. Before he can get there, Kou-Toa shoots this like magical beam into the furbolt's back and kind of like hits him and hits the ground. He starts to like freak out, starts to die. Like acid starts to like eat his back and spine basically, and he's getting murdered. Well, this is when we basically start initiative right here. So the grung, he jumps over. He comes right after. He knows what's going on. He kind of pieces together that this totem is controlling the other character, and they talked about it throughout session 0, so they kind of know. We're mitigating a little bit here, but like I said, it's a session 0, so nobody cares. He goes over. He attacks that Thrykeen. He tries to rip that thing right off his. He gets the totem off the Thrykeen's neck basically. So then he goes and tells the gnome. He's like, "No, attack these slavers." So the gnome finally can turn, and then now they're all kind of fighting. The mole comes over and tries to help them. He's already had kind of a little interchange with the Thrykeen. So he's like, "Oh, I'll come kill you, you bug," So as the two slavers converse, they kind of say, "Now." He says, "Kill Berwick," and he says, "Now." And then as that happens, the ice in this water cave, all the cavern and all the hot springs in this place, all suddenly start to, from the waterfall, you hear this crackling and this this crashing ice as pretty much ice spreads along this whole place, freezes everybody in place. Everybody in the hot springs, all the people in the partiers, everybody except for the 4 party members, which I told them to roll saves for it, but I didn't. They were going to pass no matter what. It was one of those things where I just wanted to eliminate all the people that aren't involved in the combat, basically, even though they're in the room. I described them. They're not in here anymore. This is our tavern brawling. This is our everybody meets in the tavern encounter. Just get everybody out of the way, basically. So I whip out these Kou-Toa come out of under the waterfall. There's 3 of them, and I already have Thrykeen and the other Kou-Toa out here. So that's 5 on 4, plus they have a snake, so it's kind of 5 on 5. So it's pretty equal, So as that happens, the Kou-Toa takes Berwick down, and then the party all starts to, they realize, oh my God, it's all this ice. These guys are coming to enslave us. We have to fight them, or we're gonna be screwed. So they all this is a way for me to make them work together. They have to work together, or they're gonna get enslaved. Even though the players know they're gonna be enslaved, now that gives the characters a reason to work together. So they start fighting these guys, and they do pretty well, with their first, and so they kill the first wave. They manage to take the first wave down pretty far. Now they're skating across the ice. The mole and the grung are smashing the ice, so they're falling into the ice and swimming, and they're bobbing up and down. It's very dynamic combat because it's a lot of the terrain froze everybody, but they're smashing the ice and they're tunneling underneath it. They're going underneath the ice in the water. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this combat. As you can see, it just kind of goes on. And it's our session 0.5. We're just gonna keep going. And I have to take these guys captive. This is my goal, is to take these guys captive. That's our story. That's what we have to do. So we just keep going and keep going. And eventually, they do so well that I have to bring in a second wave. I just bring in all the ones that they just killed, the minis that I just killed. I kind of just bring them right back in. Like, oh, they're sending it. And there's a guy underneath the waterfall being like, "What's going on out there? Get out there and help them. Get out there and help them. You guys are useless." Some other voice. And our wizard can sense that that's a dark elf voice. She's like, "Oh, that's one of the dark elves." Oh crap, we gotta do something here. So they fight a whole other wave, and they do really well. And I'm like, God damn it, because I'm trying to kill them, I'm trying to end this. And then so I send another wave in. So I said another wave of Kou-Toa, and I have another dark elf with them. And then they, my players are working really well together, and they're doing great. And kind of they're fighting, they're back and forth. Like I said, the ice is smashing, they're protecting each other. The gnome, they're telling the gnome what to do, and he's just kind of, he's a barbarian, but he's raging. And then I say, you hear a voice, and they go, "You guys, I've had enough of you. I'm gonna have to take care of this myself." So now I'm bringing out a really high level dark elf. So now this high level dark elf cleric comes out, and he's fighting. He has this whip with like the 3 snakes. They have like the snake whips from Ari Salvatore. But my dark elves have 3 snakes. They have a green one, an orange one, and a gray one, and they all mean different things in their priest order. They don't. My dark elves don't worship Loth. They worship a god of jealousy and darkness and evil. A different god than Loth. I wanted to make them my own, basically. You know, this is a species I've been running for a while now. They're dark elves, but they're not dark elves. You know, it's one of those things. But anyway, so he's out here with this big. He's got this whip that he can. The snake itself can extend like about 15 feet. So he's got a reach weapon. He's got like inflict wounds. He's got all kinds of stuff. And they just start fighting him, and they, you know, he does some, you know, different. He holds person. He does a couple different things to them, and they know they have to take him out because he's like the guy. He's powerful, and the wizard's freaked out, and they do a good job of murdering. I keep sending Kou-Toa out here to try to take them down, and they keep taking them out. And then I got this dark elf, so it's just really great, crazy. We probably fought for 2 hours. This crazy fight after we did sessions, so they were having a lot of fun. You know, even though they knew it was inevitable, they were having a lot of fun. And eventually, I was just like, okay, I got to. This. You know, we have to stop. I have to take them out. They're doing too good. So I went and I got I have a water elemental. So the guy summoned a water elemental. Now these are 3rd level characters. So, you know, and now he's got all these allies, and he's got a water elemental that he's conjuring. Now they know he's conjuring it, so they're trying to attack him to make the water elemental, you know, to make him lose concentration. And he's got a really high number, but they came close a couple times. And he managed to keep that thing going, and obviously, you know, I mean, 4 3rd level guys are not gonna, after the fight they just had, and then the water elemental, I basically just washed them out, and they put a hurt on everybody. They killed everybody. They managed to murder, I don't know, a lot, probably 12 different Kuo-Toa, so they basically murdered everybody except the priest, which they were never gonna. They had no chance of killing that priest because he needed to be there for session 1, the next session 1. So I finally took him out. I finally took them out with the water elemental, and I think they actually dropped the water elemental. They made him. He did fail a con save right at the end, but then there's only 2 of them left, and he inflicted wounds 1, and he choked out the other one with his snake thing, and that was the end of this battle. And as you can see, it was a simple flat. It was basically a flat encounter, but the way that the ice was broken, and they could get covered from the water and the ice. They could swim where they broke the ice here. They could swim underneath and pop back up. So there was cover. There was all kinds of things going on, even though they kind of fought in this little tiny area. I mean, the map looked beautiful. The map came out really beautiful. This is one of our live sessions that I can't wait to continue. But yeah, this was like basically a classic. You meet in a tavern session beginning. And we had decided that we were going to keep this canon. Like, so this is where they met, even though our session 1 started officially after this, and they were enslaved. This is kind of like their prequel, their origin story of how they became a group and got enslaved together. And it was also just a fun, really interesting encounter with Kuo-Toa and Dark Elf. So I hope that was interesting. Hope that gives you guys some ideas of how to start your campaigns, or how to just run a normal tavern combat, but also make it a little bit different. It's all just about reskinning. This is no different than running a battle in a tavern. It just basically style and thought into it, basically. Anyway, hope you like that. Another encounter video. What are we going to call this one? Underdark Hot Springs Kou-Toa Slavers. I'll probably shorten that. But anyway, I hope to see you soon, and keep on gaming.